Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith, along with Spencer Johnson. Spencer Johnson, a friend of the podcast. He's going to talk to us about tennis. He just finished his first year at UCLA. He was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. Give me the fist, Johnson. How'd it go? Next year, UCLA is going to be in the Big Ten. That's a big move. Singles 23-7, 76.6% of his matches. Doubles 21.2. You want to dispute that though, right?
Yeah, that one, yeah. I
think he was a little better than that, 67.7%. Overall, 44-17. He won 72.14. 72% of your matches. I've known Spencer a long time. Do you put up with me or I put up with you?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both, all right. College coach Dave Watts told me to ask you, D1 player, what's a typical day playing tennis at UCLA?
Typical day, including everything?
That would be the day, Johnson, 24 hours in a day.
Well, normally I'd have classes or one or two classes in the morning, and then we'd hit the courts at around 12:30. I'll grab lunch before, and then from 12:30 to 3, we're on court, and then from 3 to 4, we're in the gym, and then depending on days of the week, I'll have a class or two after that, and then I'll have the afternoon to study and
the evening, not the afternoon.
Yes, the evening, and I'll get on the court, hit extra serves and returns, get on the ball machine.
Got some notes here, some questions from your dad as well, but another question from Coach Dave Watts. Besides UCLA being a beautiful campus, what other campuses did you see this year traveling the United States that you were impressed by, had a lot of fun with the visit?
Well, first on my list was Harvard. I mean, very historic school, and we went there, and it was amazing. We got to see some of the campus, and it looks like Hogwarts, so that was a cool one to see. We went to OSU. That was a fun trip for our team.
OSU, Oklahoma State?
Oh, yeah. And their facilities are super nice. We saw them painting the grass green outside. That was funny.
That's like trying to sell lawnmowers in Arizona. How's it called? Zero landscape.
Yeah.
A few places in the U.S., there's not that much green grass. So Harvard, I've been to Harvard. We were telling my son Connor, we were teaching tennis teachers, training the tennis camp staff. Said, Connor, they wouldn't have let us in. Now we can tell people that we taught here. I actually 5 years in a row was on the Harvard campus. I used to tell people I spoke during the Harvard commencement. So that was indoors?
Yeah, that was indoors.
Was that just a dual match?
No, that was to get into the indoors, and we ended up losing that one 4-2, but then we beat them later in the year at our place.
4-2 makes me think of, were you facing, did you have the challenge of 3-all facing did you get to close? Are you the GOAT? Actually, the GOAT, now they think the GOAT is, years ago, it wasn't the GOAT. The term wasn't for greatest of all time. It was a Charlie Brown term. The GOAT meant that you lost. Everything comes full circle. 3-all matches. You play any?
Yeah, I played one against Pepperdine, one against Harvard, and then me and my teammate finished around the same time when we played Stanford. So that one was around there, yeah.
At Stanford?
No, at home.
Well, I know this year maybe 10, 15 matches. Ivan Oseretz and I, some of them we did live, some of them we did off tape. Because we kept questioning if Johnson needed a compass or not. Does he know the difference between north and south and east and west? Point to the net, Johnson. Which way is the net? How about travel? When you travel, do you get behind with the schoolwork?
Yeah, I do. My first year, I think it'll be a little easier next year because I'm just getting used to the groove of
The groove.
the academic groove, but it was difficult, especially at the beginning.
You're on the quarter system, which is like jump starting, right?
Yeah.
Short, what is
Super.
it, 10 week instead of 16 week?
Yeah, 10 weeks with like a finals week, and it just goes, and it's difficult. So
are you taking underwater basket weaving? What are you taking?
Yeah, that's one of my I'm majoring in econ as of right now, if I keep passing my classes.
UCLA, Vic Braden. I taught a little bit with Vic, traveling clinics up in Aspen, Colorado. Gail Godwin. She was a Braid Knight. She was a player and coach at UCLA. Mary Lay, the boss, the head coach of the Vic Braden Tennis College for a long, long time. She played at UCLA. Let's go through your knowledge of UCLA. Who's Glenn Bassett?
I've heard the name, but I need a deeper knowledge on my school's history.
He was a longtime coach. He was very successful as a high school coach. Born in Salt Lake. He spent a lot of years in Salt Lake. He was born in Salt Lake, but then he moved to California. He played at UCLA. 1950, he was on the team that won the national title. And then he became a high school coach, and he was a successful high school coach, winning the California championships. And because of that, he was hired at UCLA. 27 seasons with 7 team titles. I know Dick Gould was high at 17, 7. 49 All-Americans. Okay, let me ask you, what do you know about your coach? Tell us about your coach, first of all. Billy Martin. Billy Martin's a legend. Come on. Yeah. What do you know about your own coach?
Well, I think everyone's heard about Billy before. He arguably one of the best juniors ever. Went 5 sets with, I believe, Stan Smith. He was a teenager.
Speak a little bit louder there, Johnson. You got to be confident. You're a coach. Age 15, went 5 sets at Forest Hills on the grass courts.
Yeah.
And Stan was, at that time, he won Wimbledon in 72. We'll get our fact checker on that. But what else do you know about him?
Billy, super competitive guy. He brings the competitive juice still. He's been at UCLA for quite a while now. Yeah.
Billy Martin, he was born in 1956, Chicago. I remember practicing with a gentleman, Art White. He was 70 and I was 20, and we were buddies. I was a perennial, starting out my career as a perennial tennis bum in Boca Raton, Florida. And I asked Billy Martin if he remembered Art. And he unfortunately, he did not. But Billy was like 10 years old, and he was an ex-baseball player playing a lot of tennis. But he won the Wimbledon Juniors twice. He won the Orange Bowl twice. But yeah, he was really highly touted as going to be a great, great player, but then problems with his hips. Let's see here. He's high in the world rank. He was at 32 in the world in 1975. With in doubles, he was twice in the semifinals of majors. Best appearance at Wimbledon in singles was a quarterfinal. So it was his best in a major. Trivia: did he ever win a major?
In mixed doubles.
Mixed doubles. With who did he win with?
I do not know.
Well, it doesn't say here. It's the first time I've used a computer on the website. I'm not too high tech. With there's another Billy Martin. Billy Martin, the baseball manager. He's a player and a manager. I grew up. My father and my oldest brother loved Mickey Mantle. They loved the Yankees, and when Mickey Mantle, everybody loved Country Mick from Oklahoma. So he played for the Yankees, number 7. And I know the year he was retiring, my father and brother made an excuse that I had to go see Mickey Mantle. And I grew up, we lived a long ways away from New York City. But I went to see Mickey Mantle play. I was 8 years old, and I was more interested in the people that unfortunately were sleeping on park benches. But Billy Martin, very volatile. Our listeners could go to YouTube, plug in Billy Martin light beer commercials. This is not your Billy Martin. This is baseball Billy Martin. And, you know, he was a guy who was picking up dirt and throwing it at the umpire's chest and kicking dirt. And so a car hop at the Boca Hotel, beautiful place. So, I mean, it's just amazing to think that I saw this after, this is Mickey Mantle, you know, growing up. And there he is in person. And Billy Martin got out of the car, and a friend of mine who loved tennis, the late Steve Groves, you know, he's wearing a uniform as the front door attendant of this beautiful, posh 5-star hotel. So the parking was $4.50. And Billy Martin was arguing with him like he was an umpire. I thought it was going to break into a fist fight. Their fingers are going to each other's chest. But Mickey Mantle, here's a quote for you. Mickey Mantle, who ended up, he was an alcoholic, and when he turned 60, he said, well, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would take care of my body. But he said, this is to share with the juniors, dun, 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 it's coming to him. Mickey Mantle said, we form our habits, and then our habits form us. We form our habits, and then our habits form us. Okay, arguably, the best tennis players that played at UCLA. You want to be in this company one day, Johnson. Yeah. You definitely will be a late bloomer, though. Let me say this, is Johnson went on a Mormon mission for 2 years, didn't really hit too many tennis balls, and people didn't really think that he was going to come back and be able to make the lineup. Who comes to your mind as a famous tennis player who attended UCLA?
Right now, Marcus Garone, he's killing it right now.
Marcus Garone. I know my son Connor has won a couple of pro doubles tournaments with him. He's been playing in the Olympics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How's he doing in the Olympics?
Honestly, I've been on the court quite a bit here. I'm not too sure.
Speaking of the Olympics, I was giving Johnson a hard time. I said, Johnson, when you're here, you should just be among us. You know, granted you were out hitting some more balls, but we went to watch Austin Krajicek, who started with us years and years ago, and he's a young kid. And our listeners can listen to both Rob and Austin on our podcast. Rob giving advice to tennis parents, Austin sharing his story, but he played with Rajiv Ram, who I've never had anything to do with, but I did feed him balls, 14 and unders, and I knew, like, wow, he won it. He looked like Sampras. They call him Sampras. The story goes, he just locked himself in his room and just watched Sampras hit balls. Carmel, Indiana. Mike Costa, I always say this, a comedian who spent some time with us. He played for one of our students, Greg Tyler. He said that Ram, to repeat myself, Ram, he's so poised, so composed, he yawns in between volleys. But they played Alcaraz and Nadal. The roof was closed, Roland Garros, amazing setting. So, yeah, I wasn't really thinking of Marcus Garone. Big legs. Talked to him about his quads.
The quad squad, apparently.
J.J. Wolf and Marcus Garone. I was thinking of Arthur Ashe. You know my Arthur Ashe story?
Yours? No.
I played tennis like Arthur Ashe's brother, Jack Ashe. No, in 1985, I was a guest of Robbie Seguzo at the Davis Cup. And Mark Hamlin's been on our podcast. You know, I was right there down with the players and all these rain delays. And I thought Ham was on the other side of the stadium. I thought he was either drunk or pointing his umbrella at some beautiful girl. But it didn't take me long. He was pointing at, Tiriac orchestrated the whole thing. And Seguzo and Flack used a hand signal. I actually have this on ESPN. So it was in Hamburg, a copy of it. And I finally had a speaking part. I mean, I didn't have a speaking part. Bollettieri was there. Lansdorp was there. Arthur was the captain. Herb Krickstein, father of Aaron Krickstein, he was doing most of the coaching, all the rain delays. But it was on one side of the stadium, it was Günter Bosch, fellow Romanian. Tiriac purchased, he paid a large fee. I'm going to guess along with Vilas, it was like $350,000 they paid the German Tennis Federation for the rights of Becker. And this is, he won Wimbledon at 17, but this is when he was just shy of being 16. So, at the Davis Cup ties, they have these little flags. So then it'd be a little German flag, a little American flag. And the Seguzo and Flack, they were hand-slinging on where the serve would go. So Hamlin discovered it up in the stands looking down at the Günter Bosch. And I picked it up. And, Hamlin certainly played a lot more baseball than me. But back in my day, everybody knew baseball. They had signals. So that's when I leaned over. I mean, I was that far away. I said, Arthur, they're cheating. They're signaling off the signal. And Arthur Ashe is such a nice guy. I've told his story many times. It's been a long time since I've told it. So UCLA boy, Arthur Ashe. So Seguzo and Flack come to the bench. Then they hand signal instead of, they stop hand signaling. They just communicate verbally. But this is how nice guy Arthur Ashe is. So they switch in sides and Arthur goes, don't worry about it. They're only doing it on the one side. And again, Tiriac, I stood up and I was pointing, and Tiriac he knew that I was the one who discovered it. It was really Mark Hamlin, but I was down right behind Arthur. And so then I just started scanning the crowd, and it went from right to the top row. And then I found it was Jürgen Fassbender, and he was on the other end holding up the flags. And they actually, Seguzo and Flack, they were down 2 sets. And then after they turned around, they won in 5 sets.
Wow.
So I remember Arthur Ashe. Back in the day, we used to travel all the time with coats and ties. But he said, "Hey, you got to join us for dinner." It's like I was part of saving the day. And I said, "Well, my coat and tie is like 45 minutes from here." So Hamlin and I went out and had a German beer. But Arthur Ashe, UCLA, you didn't know that. You did know that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
How about Welby Van Horn student? Do you know his name? Great player, went to UCLA.
Jimmy.
No, not Jimmy. Come on. That's Gloria Connors and Mom 1, Mom 2. Charlie Passerelle. Have you heard that name? UCLA, come on, Johnson. He was taught by Welby. And here's another player, Ian Crookenden. I remember watching Ian Crookenden give Vitas Gerulaitis lessons on the serve. And he was telling him that he needed to swing back more on the backswing. We call it the third base position or Cobra position. And Gerulaitis made that part of his ritual. So I'm watching that behind the Boca Hotel, and 6 months later, it would have been 1975. I believe it was that was the year that Borg and Gerulaitis had such an outstanding semifinal. So you do know Jimmy Connors, though. Okay.
Yes.
How many years did he go to UCLA?
I believe, was it just one?
One. I think it was 1974. No, it couldn't have been 74. That's the year he won Wimbledon. But he won the NCAAs. I think it was played at Notre Dame. What can you tell us about Jimmy Connors? This should be for your own tennis game.
He was great with the crowd. Jimmy, he played a lot of tabletop shots.
Stealing the ace on the return of serve, lived on the backboard. With Jimmy Connors, 1974, he won 3 of the majors. He was banned from the French Open because he had played world team tennis for the Baltimore Banners. So he had a contract. Contract athletes were not allowed to play the majors. So Jimmy didn't go back to the French for 5 years. I mean, it's really interesting It was in 1971 that he won the NCAAs. One and done. But Jimmy Connors. What tennis player matched Arthur Ashe's record of winning both? UCLA player. He won both the singles and the doubles.
Same year.
In the same year. Very fast.
Is it McDonald?
Yeah. Let's look up a little bit about Mackenzie McDonald. Mackenzie McDonald, the Kool-Aid in his house had to be pretty strong growing up. His sister, he's a scholarship athlete at UCLA in tennis. His sister, he stayed with us for 3 weeks. I asked him one question, I asked him 100. His sister had a scholarship in gymnastics. He's down at 97 right now, according to this, but he's been as high as 37 in the world. But 2015, singles and doubles, is that right? Yeah. What do you know about his game other than his speed that I just told you?
What do I know about his game? He's super quick. He tries to come forward quite a bit. His serve could use some work though.
Yeah, I know that he spent a lot of time with Matt Clore. Here's one that Blair, got to ask you about this guy. You should have probably met this guy, Elliot Telscher. What can you tell us about Elliot Telscher?
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who it is?
No.
Johnson. Our listeners, there's Joey Johnson, the Papa Bear. He has the program Worthy to Win, has a book, has a program. And your uncle Jimmy had a tennis academy for years, Advantage Tennis. Elliot Telscher, I remember running a workshop for your uncle's coaches. And it was over 3 days, and Elliot came to half of it. He's a small guy, my size, McEnroe's age. He was, it seemed like he was in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open forever, but 3 years, 80, 81, and 83, he got to the quarters of the U.S. Open. Highest ranking, number 6. Doubles, number 38. A lot of guys, he's a Davis Cupper. He was at a really early age introduced to tennis, through Vic Braden at the Jack Kramer Tennis Club. But he was then a student of Robert Lansdorp's. How about this guy, Max Cressy?
I know Max, yeah.
You practiced with him?
Yeah, a few times.
Were you at our place when he was there?
Yeah, for like 2 days, and then I've seen him at UCLA a good bit.
So he got up to 31, and then he's down to 180 right now. With there's a picture of him right here. Now he's not cupping the racket on the serve. You know how you turn the palm up when you come around. It's in the football throwing position. But a big boy, 6'7". It's amazing to me that at one time, people would say he was the only person serving volleying. But I do think people got a book on him. They are used to, they know what's coming. They know he's coming. He's coming forward. What was it like to practice with him?
It was cool. According to the rankings, he's probably the best player I have been able to hit with. We did serves and returns for a good majority of practice, which made sense because he lives off his serve. But he works hard. It was pretty focused. It wasn't like the longest practice. I had longer hits with people, but he hit a lot of serves. He would go each corner for like 10, 15 minutes and then switch over.
We can look up Robin Anderson. I went out and spent some time watching her play, somebody I worked with. And when I was there, it was amazing how many famous pros were there. Were many pros around, like Tommy Haas or Venus Williams? They practicing there?
Like ex-pros, I didn't see any, no.
Keegan Smith.
Yeah, I know Keegan.
He won with Max Cressy.
Yeah.
With one thing about Max Cressy is that believing in himself. He spent quite a bit of time with Andy Fitzell. It was pre-COVID where Andy worked as a consultant for the USDA. Matt Clore set that up. You look up one more here, UCLA. Robin Anderson was living with us when she signed with UCLA. She was number one, multiple All-American multiple times. I know Mackenzie McDonald told me that his dream job would be to be the coach of UCLA. And Robin Anderson told me the same thing. Her dream job would be the coach. She's down in the rankings right now, but she's still playing. She's still plugging away. She's 31 years old now. Wow. But she got as high as 137. I remember asking Stella, Pete Sampras' sister, just if she goes there, just promise you one thing, that she'll go forward and doubles on every ball. Tell us about the incoming freshmen at UCLA.
Yeah, we have 3 guys coming in. One German kid who is pretty good, and then the 2 American kids their names are Kalen and Rudy. Rudy's an LA kid. I'm good friends with both of them. I've been able to spend a lot of time with them because they're close by. Kalen's,
but they haven't been allowed because the rules they can't practice with you guys, right?
No, but we've been able to, like, outside of tennis, spend time with them, get to know them. Kalen won the French Open this year in the juniors. He got ranked number 1 in the world in ITF. And Rudy doesn't really play ITFs, but he's played a lot of futures, like few challengers. I have a lot of respect for both of those guys, but they're both solid.
I think because it's confidential at this point. NIL, name, image, and likeness. Do you know if that'll be public knowledge, what people are being paid? It's so new, right?
Yeah, it's just starting to get going, so we'll see where it goes. It changed a lot. Just this past year I was there was like a new rule I heard about every so often.
You told us that your team was ranked 22. So how many people did you lose?
We lost 1, 2, 3, 4 guys.
Now, Billy, he's my age, so he's at the age where people are thinking he might retire. Be nice for him to retire on top.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Can you help him out, Johnson?
I got to go to the net.
With Johnson spent a lot of time practicing with 2 players. A player from France was here. He still is here. Young girl just got back from Junior Wimbledon, Maggie Sones. She, really interested in going to the U.S. Open Juniors. I said, well, it'd be great if you could go to New York, but why don't you just also go to the net? I think that's true with almost everybody. But 22, so you're coming in with 2 freshmen. Mm-hmm. Do you think freshmen yourself, having now completed your freshman year, really know what they're getting into?
It's always it's hard to put expectations on things when it's so new to you. I think like my roommate, he redshirted for half a year, and then he was able to see what it looked like, and then when he started playing, it was obviously a very different experience. So I think it's really new for anyone coming in, especially the team aspect it's so different from anything else you do as a junior.
To go backwards and say, well, I was a junior, now I'm in college. Some of these players, like Glenn Bassett, I just gave it a quick glance. I have literally hundreds of tennis books, but I don't believe I have I actually talked to him at your brother's academy. There's a man who loves tennis. He was playing on the clay courts at the Irvine Tennis Club with Telsher. I remember watching Telsher take lessons from Robert Lansdorp. And Telsher, I remember him telling me that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And many years later, he was in charge of the USTA player development for a very short period of time. But the rankings, 22, that's why I think back at going to Glenn Bassett or say Telsher. Telsher's McEnroe's age. They certainly battled. But 22 is a pretty low ranking for UCLA.
For their history, I would say so. I think the years during COVID, it was even lower. Like we started this last year at around the high 30s, I think like 37, and we were able to, we're getting back on track to where they've been for a while.
Well, I do think going back, like say Craig Tiley at Illinois, he was a pioneer in the sense where how did Illinois win a national title? And then we talked to Matt Knoll, someone like Matt also winning a national championship at Baylor. So it used to just be, Florida, Texas would sneak in there, but it was basically, it seemed like forever. It was USC, UCLA as 2 and 3, and Stanford was 1. As far as they were just dominating college tennis. But yeah, you got to help them improve that, Jonathan. 1 year at a time. Would you say that everybody on the team wants to be a pro? Everyone's thinking pro tennis, or no?
I think most of the younger guys, yeah. I'd say most of them. There's like 1 or 2 that not really, but.
So with your mission, you'd finish and you'd be 23, 24.
24-ish, yeah.
So you'd be an old rookie.
I'll be old.
You still could do it, Johnson. It is a war of financial attrition. Like, how can you stay out there? I know that well, having funded my son who played for 3 years. You got to be 200, and at that time, it's better now. But if you're 200 in the world, you're an American. You're not making money. If you're from another country and you're 200, you can be making money. It's like Nishikori. At one point, he's making more money than Nadal. Hard to believe, the Japanese player. So let's go through this list. Start talking about your tennis game. We'll go with these questions. Which one do you want to drop of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who, how, why, where, and when? You have to drop one of those questions.
Let's drop the who.
Yes, that's the only one to drop. Your opponent is nameless and faceless. Used to be a guy named Coach Wagstaff who ran the Sarasota tennis facility. And he used to tell all the people who play the tournaments there, when you go out today, you're playing Wilson 2. You're playing the ball. You're not playing your opponent. Vic Braden used to pretend he'd take his finger this way, fold it in half, and pretend he was picking his nose, and with the other hand waving his racket, and said, "This is what opponent awareness should be. Just imagine your opponent they're picking their nose and they're dangling their racket." Then his wife told him quit doing that. But most people, they freak out. They're just freaking out. So yeah, you drop the who. Then the other ones, we spend a lot of time, people come to see us on how to hit a forehand, how to hit a backhand. But then you have to, why? Why do you want to hit it this way? This thing called true topspin, trajectory, net clearance, percentages, centering the ball, which means where to hit the ball, and then like when to change the direction, when to come to the net. I've got some points here that your dad has down for us to discuss. All right. Actually, great. I think it's great for Johnson to be here. He's been up here for 2 or 3 weeks now, closer to 3, I guess. With a lot of your peers, a lot of the people that I have taught in your age group, a couple people, whether they're a couple of years older, a couple of years younger, get to the point where I can't take that anymore. I don't need any more medicine. I don't need any doses of character building. So what do you think, Johnson? What comes to your mind in reviewing your tennis game before we go to your dad's questions?
What comes to my mind? One of the things we've discussed is becoming more of a refined player. I'd say that's something that I've been thinking about.
Well, we can go on that. UCLA, at one time, I was just totally in awe of UCLA. But when I was a kid, there was only 3 TV stations, and UCLA was big time. And the terrible upstate New York falls and winter, the weather. Okay, I'm going to watch this football game. I mean, every year, like USC, UCLA, the whole country watched that game. You didn't have a choice. This is the game everybody's watching. Mark Hamlin, longtime friend, he goes, yeah, he plays at UCLA, United College of Lower Alabama. Only Hamlin could come up with that. So today, giving you the gears. I guess today you were working with a fitness coach via your iPad, right? FaceTime.
Yeah.
And of course, I gave Johnson a hard time. Up here in the mountains, we have a little gym next to the first indoor court. And Johnson did ask me if we had a nicer gym. There is a beautiful gym right by where we live, indoor, outdoor pool, Johnson, but you have to be a hotel guest to use that. So didn't like that question, Johnson. Smile. Smile, Johnson. So refined, like today to watch Sampras, Rampras hit serves. That's a guy who has a very relaxed motion. It was fun to have Ivan Osirets go through your technical analysis because he's been immersed in this information, and he enjoyed beating you up, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a good job in there.
Get the toss to the left. Your body needs to be going up. All the energy needs to be at a 45-degree angle. Your body segment's facing at 45. For you, it'd be the net post to the left. Lower body, upper body, arm racket. What's at the end of the power line is your contact point. Easy power. But again, I think people try to, and you're doing that on all these shots as well, trying to hit the ball too hard. What else comes to your mind?
Getting under the ball and hitting with more spin.
Okay, staying in the pocket. You walk around, was it Pauley Pavilion? You're not a very big guy.
Yeah, not really.
Around the basketball players, but we would say you're closer to being a giraffe, not a rabbit. Go forward. And then if you know the geometry of the court and you know stats, you're looking to get as many net appearances as possible. You have to earn your way up to net. You can't just go up. But to quote Roger Federer, good things happen at the net. With hitting spots, you hear that people say hit spots on the serve. People really talk about hitting spots with all your other shots. Braden, that definition for tennis, hitting targets. So we could just put the 4 components into that thought. Physical, the technical, tactical, mental, emotional. We just say running, hitting targets with a score. Running is the physical. Hitting is the technical. Running, hitting targets. Targets is the tactical. And the score is the mental, emotional. 3 zones of the court. Red, yellow, green. Now, if you play offensively in the front of the backcourt, okay, not midcourt, not behind the baseline, on the baseline, but inside the baseline, inside the sideline. You could say that's even a 4th zone. But what's the difference between staying in the rally and waiting for an approach shot or taking a ball as an approach volley? Both the approach volley and the approach shot are played in the yellow zone. But people just, to connect the dots, hey, we've dummied this down. Red, yellow, green. Let me test your tennis IQ. Wardlaw, Paul Wardlaw, what's he call those 3 zones? I have to test myself.
I only remembered Nick Bollettieri's, but I don't
Tell us Nick's. The
like-
late Bollettieri.
control, hurt, finish.
Control in the backcourt. You hurt them, but you finish. You want to finish at the net. We used to say that person is a finish player, meaning they could finish at the net. Now that means they're from a Scandinavian country. Wardlaw, definitely the green zone is point ending. We always tell people, ideally, you want to miss in a point ending situation. The middle of the court, you're forcing. In the back of the court, you're building. Tell us what we mean by you staying in the pocket.
Hit backhands.
This guy named Djokovic. It is amazing. And I really do think, I heard Manny Diaz say one time that for player development, they should make Babolat illegal. Yeah, you just see all these kids show up. We did that the other day. I don't say we had 16 to 18 players. I said, all right, everybody with a Babolat, stay on the double sideline. Anybody with a Yonex, step forward. And Babolat usually wins.
It's always winning.
Most junior and college players seems like they're using Babolats. Pete Sampras, if my child was to play tennis, he was asked, I think his son Christian, it's a question from years ago. He said, well, if he was going to learn to play tennis, I'd make him learn with a wooden racket. Chrissy Clore, people are just trying to launch missiles. I mean, it is just a safe bet that people are going to run around their backhand. Well, we tell young junior tennis players is get a backhand.
Yeah.
Get a backhand first. Then if you have a backhand, you can run around the backhand. But it's almost like they're just waving their arms. This player from France, I told him, I said, this is how you play. You're just waving your arms going, I don't play a backhand. And I said, that's only part one. The second part of your game is you're waving your arms and going, I don't play volleys either. But yeah, stay in the pocket. Hit through the center. You don't want to have it be a side-to-side battle.
Yeah.
Have it be through the middle. Spice of life, though, if you get really confident in the baseline. I tell people that when I'm watching a college tennis match, especially on the men's side, you can even guess who's from the South American, especially the European countries, because they've played on red clay. And even Central and Northern Europe, they're not playing on red clay year round, but you can just tell they've got the savvy. As Vic Braden would call it, frustration tolerance level. The dinker has a house full of trophies. This rally could go to 100. I love it. We have people, juniors, we did that today with a couple of young players. Rally 8 balls and played out. And they can do it. Rally 6, rally 4. And then you say play, then they can't rally. They can't rally. Tell us a few drills that you're going to take home to UCLA this trip, from this trip.
I was making a list as we were going on.
You've actually taken notes this time, huh, Johnson?
Yeah, this is the first time I've got my pen and paper out. My favorite drill was when we were hitting short court with the foam balls inside out for about an hour and a half. It was great.
Foam balls, not so good in the wind. All levels of players. That's the slowest ball. I don't really like the red ball. I don't use that, but I certainly you can find a place for the orange and the green dot, and then really beat up tennis balls are like a green dot. Mm-hmm. But you can take someone at Spencer's level, and he's hitting with a 12-year-old, and then you do have to keep enforcing move and bend, move and bend, move, bend and breathe. Body squats, get there, use your legs, and nobody's missing. Mm-hmm. Say we're going to do this for an hour and a half, and your body once again built-in gym. Give us another drill.
Blocker and the hitter.
Yeah, I don't have too many original drills. I like to give credit where credit's due. A lot of plagiarism in tennis. I invented that. In the tabletop is just a framework. Your ready position, you turn, you set the racket up like a volley, and it's a volley with an added follow through. And you really just absorb the player's pace. And the setter counts 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 2 for 3. How many can you get out of 20? The person on the other side is hitting top. So you can reverse it. So it's 20, 20, cross court. And so you could go cross court the other way, but then you can do it reverse where, and that when you do say put yourself in the backhand corner, you're hitting forehands, it does help you swing inside out, which is you at first was a technical term for years, just from close to away. And just, can you move? Can you hit top? I like to tell players you're on the right side of the baseline, hit on the right side of the net strap, and you're not missing wide. Okay. With, if you miss wide from the, you're on the baseline or behind the baseline, that's a felony. You're going to tennis jail.
Going to prison.
Misdemeanor if you're inside the court and you miss wide. At least you're trying to do something with the ball. Another drill, Johnson.
Win a set in 60 shots or less.
Okay. So you're playing with this young 14-year-old girl. I mean, she's got to be pretty good. I mean, she just was invited to Wimbledon. I mean, she's won a couple of national titles, been ranked 1, going now to play for the U.S. and Worlds. So Johnson is serving. He has to spin the serve in and playing in gears. He's just serving, say, 60%, comes in. We certainly could talk about the split step. Moves through the volley. Volleys are hit with momentum source of power. Ground stroke serves, ideally rotational source of power. And 4 points per game, 3 shots per point. So that's 12, 12, 12. You're going to win 6 loves, 3 games on the serve. It's 36 shots. And then when you're returning, we have someone actually with pencil paper. They're just using the tally system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you just glide in off the approach shot and you win in 2 shots. Win in 2 shots. That's where one of the biggest problems in tennis is, people are intelligent, but they're not clever. They're not creative. It's like, well, no, I have to bang balls with this person. And people are just out there banging balls. How about another drill?
The names of the drills. We did one drill where you drop, hit the ball, cross court, pass the service line, and you play a set. Every time you make a ball, it's like 15 love, 30 love.
Okay, we do that as a tiebreaker test. So yeah, you get 1 serve. Your serve has to go in. So for Spencer, it's got to go in and it's got to bounce 3-4 feet up. We actually put these pickleballs in the back of the court, and the serve has to bounce above the pickleball net. So that's a healthy second serve. And then you can feed based on the player's level of play. And initially just over the service line. Yeah. You feed, and you've got to hit the ground stroke, forehand, backhand over service line, approach out over service line. And initially we have players, just like on the tiebreaker test, come in and angle the ball off. But to improve their technique to volley down the line. And we had a gal from Baylor University here earlier in the summer. She passed that in 1 day. But then we said, okay, now we're going to put some skip ropes between the service line and the baseline. So now it's, on some courts, you have the 10 and under line. And then you definitely know you're hitting deep. Yeah. Placement's more important than power. Placement's more important than power. I mean, you do have like a Ben Shelton today who's just cranking serves. And that's the epitome of the serve plus 1. It's like ba-boom. It's like 2 bombs. But we certainly would recommend, we've talked about that a couple of times, to be able to play behind that serve. I mean, it's like Steve Denton, who's a guest on our podcast. I remember Vic Braden would show his serve twice a week. The students who came for the weekday class, and people would be there for the weekend. At that time, he had the fastest serve in the world. But what Pete Sampras did so well with his serves, he followed up with great volleys. Great volleys. You don't see many people who can volley the way Sampras did. The 60 shots, then with the targets for that drill. And if people just got a basket of balls and you just feed it to one another. So we do it a lot of different ways. we have a lot of fun where we have a group do it as a tournament, a quadrant tournament. First round, everybody's got to hit their first shot would be a forehand volley cross court. Next they have to hit a down line approach shot, and the far quadrant come in. And really good players, it should last a long time, but it's just the baseball term or a basketball term, I guess. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. You know, it is a basketball term. If that kid was in a rowboat in the Atlantic Ocean, he couldn't put the ball in water. People can't hit targets. We did that with you at Vandermeer drills. Yvonne helped out. I fed 10 balls, put down the percentage post, and you've tweaked your grip on the backhand side ever so slightly. Makes a big difference, Jonathan.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, the different chapters and what happens with young tennis players. They think they know, but they don't know. There's just so many different levels of tennis. But then, so you hit the approach shot, and Yvonne, he sets the ball down. You know, say, okay, and you know, how close are you to the target? It should be a cluster of balls going right towards that target. But people don't practice that way. In other sports, I mean, the golfers, they have a target. They're going to go to the putting green. They know they have to putt. They accept they have to putt. Tennis players don't accept they have to volley. A basketball player is going to be at that foul line. They've got a target. That's one of my favorite short videos is we have young kids drop hitting balls into a basketball hoop. Your target is small and elevated. And in your era right now, why should you feel confident elevating a ball? Ground stroke exchange.
No one's going in.
Almost no one's volleying. And if they do volley, first of all, they're not programmed to volley. I mean, brain memory, they don't volley because they don't volley. But if they come in, they've been taught inefficient grips. A lot of times, like on the forehand side, the elbow's in, the racket face is up. And they're going to finesse a volley. Now, that being said, that may sound great in theory, but a lot of people are going to come in, and if you don't put enough juice on the ball, they're going to come in and take a swing volley out of the air.
Yeah.
It's going to be boom, boom, and more boom. You know, it's kill or be killed. It's not like with a lot of players, not a lot of rhythm out there. You slap it, I will slap it. You hit hard, I will hit hard. It's just amazing to me when someone hits a slice backhand, someone's like money, you can bet that the other person, juniors in college, going to slice the ball back. Here's a question for you, Johnson. If someone hits a float slice, not a drive slice, you know, the grip is not strong. Grip determines the angle of racket face. Angle of racket face determines the angle of racket path. You can tell by sight and sound they're floating the ball. What do you need to do?
Run.
Run which way?
Forward.
Forward. And why? Those words, why?
Well, why? Because it's going to be a minus. It's going to stay in the air longer.
No, they floated an underspin backhand. Why you need to move up is even on an efficient stroke, the racket has three angles. Efficient ground strokes. Close at the bottom, vertical to hit, and then as you lift, the racket face opens up. So like a change up in baseball, when someone, and that's a tool of variety. So when someone does it, you can hit float slice. You float a ball deep, and now they're early, like they are when someone's a fastball pitcher now throws a slow ball. The swinger's early. But I should say this with variety. You got to be careful you don't mix it up too much. But you're not as big as Medvedev, but why is Medvedev one of your heroes?
The way he moves.
He races to the bounce. He gets behind the ball. If the ball's out, he's right there to catch it and just give it to the ball boy. And he's kind of gangly the way he moves. I mean, but that guy is just unbelievable how he just runs balls down. A pet peeve of mine is when a ball goes out and the junior just calls it with their eyes. They know it's going out and they don't move one step and they just call it out. But that's where, talking about Jimmy Connors, Gloria Connors, you know, in practice he was playing everything. It was 4 inches out, he's playing it. You know, it's amazing. If you're going to be a really good player, you're not calling your own lines. And there's just so much stress, so much cheating. Granted, if it's out, it's out. But I think there's so many people that anything close is out. And that comes back to haunt them. Any other drills?
Yeah, we did today a few that I liked. We were about 3/4 court near the service line, and with two people, I had to hit a volley down the line and then run back.
Spanish drill.
Stroke. Yeah, the Spanish drill.
So you're backing up, and the nice thing about that is that, I mean, it challenges one as an athlete, but if you're backing up, you're not going to have a big swing. So it keeps your swing short and compact. And then what you have to do is immediately come to the net.
Yeah.
And things can be scaled down. If it's, say, younger players, they could do it off a double touch, 2 hits on one side. But just to close in. I've heard Johnny Mack say that Nadal had, this is a couple of years ago, Nadal had his best volley in tennis. But he's almost, almost close it with a forehand grip on the backhand volley. It's definitely composite. Racket face is way open, but he just closes way in. Let's go with some of these things with your dad. He thinks that you're too close on the backhand. Why do you think you're too close on the backhand?
I think my swing is a little too, it goes outside in quite a bit, I would say so.
Outside in, but I think also your first inclination, you see this all the time as players, their first impulse, their first move is they are looking at a forehand and they go, I can't get a forehand. So then they're late turning. You just got to love to hit a backhand. Just turn to hit a backhand. It's natural to be too close to the ball because we go to objects with our hands. Now the arm is about the same length as the racket. The racket is 27 inches, arm's 27 inches. Also too, Freud's return to the womb concept, that's a Braden thought, is when people are tight, the Aussies used to call it the elbow. The shoulders come in, they're scared. Elbows come in. You don't hear this phrase so much anymore, but that kid getting hit out on the ball. They're going to go for it. You have a better chance of having the racket face be vertical to hit by swinging fast and swinging slow. You're better off to be a one-ball blast and a forever push. But you got to love backhands. You just people on the return to serve, especially when you're returning, you're trying to neutralize, and it's amazing. Like Roddick was such a great player, best American for almost 10 years. But if somebody could return a serve well enough that he wasn't going to hit his big forehand, later in his career he was injured, says he couldn't hit his forehand as big. But if you could get past the big serve and the big forehand, then his chances of winning the point went down dramatically. Andre Agassi said once about Roddick, if the ball goes more than 4 times, you might as well just hit the ball in the bleachers. Yeah, I'd love to listen to Agassi. Engage weapon number 1. Talking to Raven Klaassen, Lloyd Harris was playing Alcaraz and Arthur Ashe. Just hit 2 first serves. You're going to play the guy 10 times, and you're going to win once. And, just tee off on both serves. I really believe that, that's a labor lesson. If you can't get one of 2 serves in, you don't deserve to win the point. But one summer, Djokovic was giving Medvedev a lesson, and Medvedev just started saying, well, I guess I won't hit second serves. And, too many times players differentiate too much between the first serve and second serve. I had a 9-year-old ask me today, Steve, should I hit a kick serve? I remember when you were very young, and our listeners, I've known Spencer since he was 11, and telling your dad, he said, no, just teach him a service motion. Just have him have a basic service motion. Don't be talking to a young player about, hitting slice and hitting top. Can they just get the toss and the body alignment, get that down first.
I'm working on it.
With, Krajicek, who had to close that match out with serving today. It was a fun experience for me. I was at Kalamazoo, and Steve Denton went through our training, and he was coaching Austin. Austin went to Texas A&M, and he won Kalamazoo. Treat for me is I was fortunate that he invited me to, with his dad, to go to the US Open. So Steve Denton told him, he's playing the finals of Kalamazoo. He goes, don't try to hit one ace, Johnson. You try to just, we looked at some points today with, it wasn't, you played Colton Smith. It wasn't that match. It was another match. Obviously the guy had to be very good. I mean, you won the match. He plays for Pepperdine, one of these pro tournaments this summer that you've played. But Colton Smith, you came out, lost your serve right away, lost 7-6. He's not warmed up. We didn't do that, but we can. I'm sure we have it archived because he came for one day and we filmed. His coach brought him to us. We just did video work for one day. I remember Andy Fitzell was with me. Character kid. Did you play his team?
Yeah, we did.
Do you know Clancy Shields?
Yeah, I've talked with Clancy a bit. He's awesome.
Actually, you know Steve Campbell from here. Tennis World's a small place. Tennis director at Wintergreen, and his wife Colleen Patton, her brother Greg Patton, coached Clancy and Luke Shields, right?
Yeah.
And I've been told great things. I've only been told a couple times. He worked for a little bit. He taught tennis for a guy by the name of Jim Morgett, who's all these connections. I trained his wife to teach tennis, and when they're little kids, and Jim had done all these things, but he wasn't really someone. He taught college tennis. He was a UCLA. He traveled UCLA national players. He taught team tennis. But when their kids were little, Robert said, "Okay, we have to go and work on our demos." But Clancy Shields has, done some great things. Is it Arizona? Yeah, not Arizona State.
Arizona.
And you play both, right? But you won't now. Now you play Big Ten.
Yeah, I need to double check who's heading over there.
It's crazy. Stanford's going to be in the ACC.
Yeah.
What's going on? The world's going crazy. But serving, give me some P's. We had Coach Perelman on last week. Profanity, that's a word with P. What tennis words come to your mind with the word P? Let's think about your serve.
Power line.
Power is the last one. Let's go with another one.
Percentage.
Percentage. We could add placement.
Placement.
Precision. With proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. Just like when you play an approach shot. When you play an approach shot, you want the person to hit the passing shot. Not always, but when you're serving right now at the level you're at, let them hit the ball. Okay, so you want to play pro tennis. Okay, you got to learn to volley. In juniors, you played too much like an offensive baseliner. Growing up in Salt Lake, high altitude. Johnson, what are you doing, Johnson?
Hitting bombs. Balls flying everywhere.
You still think you're hitting bombs. You have to work on placement. I heard Sam Querrey say he hates it when coaches tell their players to serve middle, serve body. Well, when you serve like Sam Querrey, but when juniors are hearing that, it's like you're not Sam Querrey. This guy's serve is like unbelievable. You want to get to that point. Told some people today, Kevin Anderson, I remember seeing him do this at Bollettieri's IMG. I was told he hit 100 serves a day. Somehow you got to hit 100 serves a day and go out and hit spots. This is a review for people who listen to our podcast. What's the Stan Smith 72 serves?
It's kind of the serve formula, I would say.
Stan has been, I've heard Stan give that lesson since the 80s.
You got 3 places where you can stand, on both sides. That's 6. That's a total of 6, but take 3. You have 4 targets to hit to on each side. That's 8. And then you have flat, topspin, and slice. And you do the math, so you have 72 combinations of different serves you can hit.
To break it down, just think of the deuce court first. 3 positions on the baseline. And then you have 4 targets. 3 times 4 is 12. You have 3 spins, slice, flat, and top. So that's 36. So you have 72 serves, according to Stan Smith, to go out and practice. Like, can you hit that? I remember having my son take lessons from Mark Dixon. Brad Gilbert one time said he had the best second serve in tennis. He climbed his way up at Jesuit High School, then at Clemson. Got to be, I think, 32 in the world. Here's my favorite Mark Dixon story. We should get him on the podcast. This is a great tennis mind. He hit serves all the time. Actually, when he was at Clemson, his dad, who used to hang out and watch us teach tennis, great guy, his dad got Creasy convinced that his kid had to just go to the swimming pool. Because, Creasy, perhaps great guy. Maybe it's mellowed some, but I mean, it's like cross country 101. You're going to run and run some more. Harry Hopman used to have his players have 2 sessions, and then when it was over, whoever worked the hardest would go have a beer with them. Everybody else had to go run 10 miles.
Okay.
It wasn't really too sport specific. Now these physical trainers say, I don't have your kids do any distance running. I meet all these kids. I tell them, your physical trainer might be great, but I think they should be fired because the kid's not in shape. So Mark Dixon is playing Vilas. Now the documentary Vilas #1 in the world. Borg is so gracious. That year, Borg, he didn't play the French Open. Vilas won the French. Borg played World Team Tennis instead. Because there really was more money in World Team Tennis than there was, and boy, times have changed. So Dixon, he holds his serve against Vilas. Beats him on clay. It's like, how does Mark Dixon beat Vilas on clay? And he only attacked 1 game per set.
Oh, is this when...
So he didn't let him groove his passing shots.
He attacked at like the end of the set, right?
Yeah, he was waiting. It's 4-all. He goes, okay, now I will attack. So he was like, okay, he's not going to let him hit passing shot after passing shot. That's a smart guy. I tell juniors all the time, when pros practice, they don't even keep score. They know they're not doing well if they lose their serve. I just think juniors play more and more, and I think it's because of the UTR, and every time they play, it ends up on a computer. It's logged on a computer somewhere that when they were in the 5th grade, they lost. So the Stan Smith 72 serves with your dad. Let's go into this. You need to improve your underspin backhand approach shot. Has that happened?
Only hit a few thousand of them in the past 2 weeks.
It's only been 2 weeks, or been 2.5?
A little over 2.5.
A little over 2. Geez, Johnson, you're leaving me. Actually, the plan was to try to. We made some arrangements to get Spencer over on the red clay. The Johnson family, 5 kids. They don't have the money tree in the backyard, but it was just to come here for a couple of weeks, and we're going to try to get you to France. I think more college players, they shouldn't be so concerned about, I want to play ATP. I want to get ATP points. I think once you finish your college career, it's like, okay, now I'm pursuing ATP points. To just get better during college. Use college to get better. And, when you go to France, I know a lot of top college players now looking back. I know Jeremy Wertzman told me that many times. You got to be 1 in the NCAAs. That's a pretty good tennis player.
It's pretty good.
But, if you've been playing hard court for 4 years, and a lot of it's indoors, and then you go play on the red clay, you're going to go over as a college kid and be losing to some teenagers. Ego kills, and people just don't do it. With the underspin backhand, talking a little bit about Ken Rosewell, where Gonzalez said, what's slice backhand? He doesn't slice anything. It's just flat as a pancake. You need to be able to bevel the racket face. Vandermeer did such a great job with that. A lot of people have 2 grips. To hit slice, they go to a continental. People even say, the continental family. You hit the underspin backhand with a continental grip. You float the backhand with a continental grip. If you could just tweak it a little bit, it's like going from a 5-iron to a 2-iron in golf. The bevel, the pitch of the racket face. And drive slice versus float slice. David Squire. I like that. Dumbest Australian in the world, but that's where I picked that up. He hits float slice. I said, Squire, you said something intelligent. Say that again. So anyway, that your dad had it on the list. We had fed you balls, and people just don't realize that the ball is going deeper. It's carrying through the air.
Yeah.
With Rod Laver, Braden used to always say this. Laver said at the beginning of the match, hit topspin. You're nervous. Get the air currents on the top of the ball, pulling the ball down. But then you can hit a flat or it's not a float slice, but you hit that firm underspin backhand drive, hit it deep. So when the ball's in flight, you're in movement. The trajectory keeps the ball low.
That makes me think of all the times my dad's always telling me, to mix in the tabletop approach shots. And before I had little faith in that, but now we've talked about it so much, I understand it, and I got fed a million of them, and the ball just carries deep. It's amazing how I can be told the same thing, and then.
Well, yeah, understanding. I think of a girl. She's on our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, from a runner's family, Illinois player, Phil Stolt. So he's on a team that won the national title. Broderick, she used to help us with Division I players visiting. People had ATP points, and she could just run from a runner's family. And there must have been 60 people in the bleachers, parents, players, coaches. And I said, well, let's have Megan show you a shot that she never hits. And, I say, come up, hit a volley. Now move back. Let me see you hit a conventional approach volley. Let it bounce. Just play it. Alcaraz can hit this shot. I think about many times just would see a Federer hit it. Jimmy Connors. He mastered it, but so did Jack Kramer. People say, what, Jack Kramer? Oh, he couldn't play in today's game. Are you kidding me? So, he could just hit. Brady used to call it 4x4 corner. We just say, okay, percentage post. We go 3.5 feet, because we're just basically going, hey, stupid. You got 20 feet of a target. You can't keep the ball within 20 feet. So anyway, this scene with her father comes in and says, I just want to tell you that my wife's really mad at you for saying that in front of all those people. I just looked at her and smiled. Go tell her that every day is not a golden day. Your daughter does not play that shot. I was mentioned on this podcast for the Armitage family. It was great with Leander Paes and B.J. Armitage being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Talk about being able to hit that shot. With it's just unfortunate that people don't understand. But VJ was known for just telling people Jimmy Connors' serve's not that good, and he would play approach outs off of it. Where people are more intimidated. Jimmy could move the lefty serve around, but actually Mike McLaughlin was just recently cleaning out the Vic Braden library, some of the things that still haven't gone to the Tennis Channel. And, there's so many things. Like one is a thank you note from Glory Connors to Vic Braden and Gideon Ariel. Because Jimmy's serve was in the 70s and it went up to 104. He didn't have a big serve. But, they did the biomechanical screen sketch. Connor's serve looked great until he threw the ball way over his head. And then he jackknifed. He was so good despite his serve. Unbelievable. No free points for that guy. You went out Colton Smith, and that panic is with all shots. Stay in the pocket, stay in the rally, hit backhands, make serves. When you go in right now, I would say you should use the Bill Jacobson, Carlos Coffey green light mentality, if you're serving where you're up by 2 or more points, and that would, where you are right now, would say that would even be in your third service game. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you want to serve and volley every time. With back in the day of wooden rackets, I watched Mackenzie McDonald play the other day, and I was just texting back and forth with Matt Clore. Obviously, he's not playing that well at the point, but at this moment, his ranking obviously indicates that. But I remember asking him all these questions. I mean, one is earlier in his podcast. I mean, how do two kids from the same family get to UCLA on a scholarship, 2 different sports? Like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. But he said, I return to the middle high when they stay back. I return to the middle low when they come in. You got to neutralize. You got to make the return. How about this one? Your dad, comment on 2 tenths on volleys.
2 what?
2 tenths. Too uptight.
Oh,
Anxiety 101.
tenths.
Should I tell all these fine people why we call you Johnson? We'll come back to that.
We can.
If they're in the know, they know.
Later.
But we have people listening to our podcast for the first time.
I'm 2 tenths.
You're too tight. Tighter than a drum. Why is that?
Thinking about, too worried about what's going to happen.
The Aussies, no worries made. Outcome oriented instead of performance oriented. Not understanding geometry, not understanding stats. Let them hit it. But again, don't let them hit it to the point where they can blow it by you. It's coming right at you. Agassi versus Sampras. Which one was the pitcher? Which one was the batter? They don't ask you these in your UCLA econ classes.
Did you say Pete's the pitcher?
Pete would be the pitcher. And the thing about the pitcher is the pitcher gets to go forward. You serve, the returner has to wait for the ball to bounce. I was in a stadium one time watching Nastasi play the South African, Cliff Drysdale. Used to always wear a glove. And Drysdale started coming in on his second serve. Then he started coming on his first serve. It was just, maybe 5,000 people in the audience. Nastasi waited. Tyriak taught him how to do this. Waited, dead silence, and said, no. You cannot do that. I am serving. I will come in first. You have to wait for the ball to bounce. And so he just started serving volleying. Thinking of Rajiv Ram, he played quite a bit of doubles with Raven Klaassen. And I mean, he played, I know I worked a little bit with Scott Lipsky, made a video for Scott. Remember his father who passed away at such an early age, not shortly after the video was made, just a couple of years, like by the time he was like a freshman at Stanford, I think. So he's, he played with Jeremy Wurtzman. It's in the 14, so he's probably 13 years old. I remember the father saying about the technical video, we will work off that video, but we'll just do it father-son. Won't even take it to the coach. I'm thinking, this guy's a smart guy. Brian Wilson, who was sent to us by Craig Tiley, that's who Ram won the NCAAs with. And then he played with, certainly he's played with Austin today, but he played with Raven Klaassen. And with, to go in, the experience of going into volley, okay? If you don't volley, you don't volley. How many touches do you get to that? We chart people all the time, college matches. I mean, you go to a futures event. It's scary that you could say, well, all right, I bet you we go 100 points, which is 2 sets, 50 points a set. And we're not going to chart one overhead. If you can hit an overhead, it's definitely a statement of playing offensive tennis. So Raven Klaassen, he loses in the futures level. He loses to Rajiv Ram. They're in their early 20s. And I'm just talking to him via phone. And I said, he was attacking every second serve, correct? And Raven said, yeah. I said, never again. Because Raven is a better mover. He's just so athletic. And no, if someone's attacking your second serve, if they're coming in, no, I'm coming in first. I'm going to serve and volley. You don't know you're going to attack my second serve. No, I'm going to serve and volley, second ball. Go right at you. But again, the Vic Braden line, if your serve is so bad, it's like throwing up a grenade and running underneath it. But it's not really that bad. But you're tense on volleys because you're tense on volleys. What's better? A really deep volley that's an inch from 2 inches from the baseline, or one that's just 4 or 5 feet from the baseline?
4 or 5 feet.
Yeah, because you got to be consistent. All these podcasts, Roger Crawford, in his own right, actually the two Rogers have met. Roger Crawford, Mr. Motivation, played college tennis, disabled in all 4 limbs. There is no perfection, but there's consistency. With Warren Pretorius, his doubles partner. Give me a second, I'll think about it. I gave lessons to him. He won all the 35s in Aussie. Used to say to Warren, you don't have to play great, you just have to play solid. People try to do too much with the ball. No doubt about it. One drill that we didn't mention that I love is that 100% with your feet, 50, 60% with a racket. Initially, you can't hit a winner. Now that you did all these situational drills while you're here, serve underhand. And now when you serve, you stay back. You're the counter attacker. The person on the other side is the attacker. And then we could do this where you serve underhand. Person plays the approach shot up the line. You pass up the line. They volley up the line. Then you play it up. And then skill acquisition. Can you play those shots? There's very little tennis played in tennis. People say comedy of errors. It's really a tragedy of errors. Let's go with this one. Your dad wants to talk about bisecting angles. What do you got?
Not much.
Not much. Well, Margaret Court, who won so many majors, she won as a mom, and she called it walking the plank. So when she would practice during the latter stages of pregnancy, she would just move laterally east and west across the baseline. And then she would come back from childbirth, and she said, I had to avoid walking the plank. We did the Spanish drill, break diagonally, ideally going forward to play a ground stroke. Sometimes when you have to defend, to move back diagonally. Definitely on volleys. It's really interesting. Why do people swing up on volleys? Years ago, we say they swing up on volleys because they've been poorly taught and they're really hacking downward. Chip and charge, slice, knife the volley. But I think today the reason that players finish up high is ratio balls hit. They've hit so many ground strokes and they finally volley. We did this drill the other day with yourself, and you being here makes me think of when I went to France one time with my son Connor, and this guy Marcus Bagdatis and Patrick Mortigolis comes right up to us, which you need to do when you're here. He goes, every person who comes up here, you go right up to him.
I'm
Cramping.
Hold on.
Should we take a time out? We can just keep rolling.
It's okay.
It's all right. I can understand. We practiced 8 hours today. We could edit.
Is that the first cramp on podcast?
No, I myself have cramped on the podcast. The old dinosaur teaching it out 8 hours a day too, walking up and down these hills. You good though?
Yeah. Okay.
So where were we though? I think Yvonne is in the back. Maybe you can help us out. Bagdatis. So we're at Patrick Mortigolis. You're listening, Johnson. And he comes right up and introduces himself. And he was just running hills with the juniors. And then they went camping, and he was going off with the juniors to sleep in the woods. But anyway, we just took your palm, take a ball out, just toss the ball, just push it. Keep your wrist fixed. And then now just go around, do the same thing, palm guidance. And then Elaine Mason years ago in the 50s, Dennis Vandermeer progressions. Then just put your 4 strings on the fingers of the racket head, and let people know this is how simple it is. Just like, okay, let's teach tennis based on the point of contact. That's the moment of truth. How can we get the racket face square on a tennis court from behind the baseline is less than 20 degrees wide, and you're going to get it there for a 3 to 6 millisecond hit. I mean, you got to do all the fitness and nutrition, get in position, and you got to let the racket free fall, go away from your body, keep your head still, stop your left side. But it's how many times can you do that? How many times can you do that? And so if you, I think that's something else. Let's talk about that. If you practice differently than when you play, Dave Anderson, like yourself, he's I think he's the leader for being a guest on our podcast. So my son, when he was really young, by the time he was 16, I said, well, this is not the place to go because now other 16-year-olds have a car at the Brookhaven Country Club. But when he was 14, 15, he spent a lot of time at Dave Anderson. So how that went is Anderson was around me for 8 years. So same message, different messenger. Cramps go away.
Yeah,
you're alive.
I'm good now.
So now help me out because I looked over I haven't seen your moment here. What was I going to talk about?
Practice versus play.
Yeah. So thanks, God, Justin. That's why we have to have Yvonne at the table because he keeps me on track. So if you're doing what you're doing in practice, you're really loose and having fun. And then we did these matches, even though you won 76.6% of your matches as a freshman, but you were too tight. You could just feel the anxiety. Just have fun out there, the sense of enjoyment, but practice like you play like you practice. I think that line from Jim Lair, sense of enjoyment. What's the worst thing that can happen is you could lose. The Jimmy Connors line, if I lose this guy, I will follow him to the end of the earth. I will play him. And if you're going to be a really good tennis player and you're going to play other really good tennis players, it's going to be how many times do you win out of 10? The breathing, that's all part of it. Not having a tight grip, not having your hand where it's off the racket. Very few people organize their feet. Almost every error can be attributed to poor footwork. Very few people have the ready position. I was talking to Jeff Lewis the other day. He was at this Vic Braden reunion. A woman said, "Hey, Steve, why weren't you at the Vic Braden reunion?" I said, "Well, I had promised people here. We got someone from Austria and France and England, and I said I can't go. I've promised. The American kids are visiting. They wouldn't have booked their ticket that far in advance. But Jeff was talking about literature." And, he's taking the high road and being positive between the USTA and the ITF. He goes, well, this booklet and that booklet, neither one of them even mentioned the ready position. And that's like every shot starts with Dennis Vandermeer, organize your feet, organize your hands. So lack of preparation, lack of reps. The history, though, when you played, I know I've hurt your feelings a few times, Johnson, is you were a bluff serve and volleyer. What's that mean?
Not really a serve and volleyer.
If you'll follow our podcast, Sophia Patel, she's the lone captain, MVP. You would remember Sophia. She was at that camp in Germany you were at. And she's wearing the color I have on today, the UCLA, the light blue of UNC. God's team, the sky is blue, and NC State. And Sophia Patel told the coach at UNC, Brian Calvis, that NC State, they're bluff serve and volleyers, or they're bluff net players. And he said, what do you mean? He goes, I did it every year in juniors. They just started doing it when they got there as a freshman. But you're better off, and that's where NC State, what they'd go from 140 to 2. I I mean, I'm emphatic about it. I mean, I really think this, if a college coach has a player, say they're there 5 years, and they're still playing one up, one back doubles, that's grounds for the athletic director to fire them. But they're safe because most athletic directors, they only know football and basketball. Let's do a little explanation. Why do we call you Johnson?
Because Spencer died. Steve's a long time ago.
Why did Spencer die? That's kind of a morbid. This is kind of a morbid thought.
You want me to tell it?
You think I'd tell it better?
You tell it.
Quickly, I'm at Panera with a group of guys. Johnson was one of them. All these 13, 14-year-olds. We're helping Tennis Memphis, and I say, no one. Call everybody in. New rule: no one buys this cinnamon twist bagel, cinnamon twist pastry. It's got more sugar than Mount Everest has snow. And I was implementing the new rule. Johnson just heard me, wah, 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 wah. Then hear one word I said. And went right to the counter with his parents' little plastic money card, and he bought one of those pastries. Johnson, tried not to call you Spencer because of that. Okay, so accept and let go of mistakes. What your dad wants us to talk about that. What do you got?
Gotta stop freaking out.
Made of glass. Mark that hat fragile. Short-term memory. Pete Sampras says it all the time. You have to have short-term memory. Two great words. Move on. Move on. I know you said you liked the comment about going to the nets like throwing a football. Mm. Actually, it's not quite like throwing a football. When you throw a football, three things can happen. Two of them are bad. Interception is the worst. Incompletion. And then a completion, but they still throw the football. And you have to have some unpredictability. You can't play the same point every time. Realizing there's no time clock, it says something here as well, and it's along the same lines as from your dad's notes, text messages. Why would he say that you have to stay in the match no matter what the score is? That sounds like that might have been a frustrated father-son discussion. What happened there for your dad to write that?
I had two matches recently where I had a close first set and second set just kind of
Colton Smith, right?
Let the air out of the balloon, yeah.
Yeah, Colton Smith was a tiebreaker after just coming out like you had to. And that's what you try to do with your serve. You're not hitting your serve well enough to hit spots. There's the placement, the precision, and then as a result, the percentage. It's just like you're going out for, as Dennis Van Enden would say, the blunderbuss. Here it comes. I think that goes hand in hand with hitting too hard, panicking. In ice hockey, they would say, the guy doesn't have soft hands. He's squeezing the stick too hard. He's trying too hard. Your dad asked me to comment on hold the line. You want to take the volley back where it came from. Somebody hits a really good passing shot, it's cross court, and the ball gets below the level of the net, volley back cross court. They hit a good passing shot down the line, it's below the level of the net, take it back. The math's not on your side. The racket face has to be open. But what happens is people, again, coming back to Braden, Freud returned to the womb concept, two sets of motor programming with stress and without stress. So you're practicing without stress. Jim Lehrer, okay, stress is a good guy, recovery is a bad guy. But, we tell people, parents look at me cross-eyed. Kids should put pressure on themselves from the time they get up. They get up, make your bed, boom. Now, do 10 push-ups before you go to the bathroom in the morning. Pressure. Yeah, I got to do it. And it's not earth-shattering, life-threatening pressure. But taking the ball back where it came from. Sampras was great at that. Here's something that I heard a lot of people say already, time and time again from Roger Federer's commencement speech at Dartmouth. He won 54% of all the points throughout his whole career. for 10 years in a row going to the US Open, Nadal and Federer were every year both were at 55, 55.1, 55.2. Finish on your forehand volley. What's your comment on that? Anything? Your dad asked about that?
Well, when Yvonne was ripping into my strokes when I first came here, crushing me, my racket was turning in slightly. So,
turning down?
Yeah. I wasn't beveling at the finish.
No such thing as a perfect grip. With a composite grip, another Bradenism. Top players, they don't say what they do or do what they say. It's society. Like the Bryan brothers, so great for tennis. They tell people I volley with a continental grip, but they volley with a composite grip. I mean, you can go up to someone and just if they have a really strong continental grip, they have to really make some adjustments. McEnroe is amazing. You knew he wouldn't go forward, so he would jump almost like put the brakes on, but he'd get really close to the net. Of course, you have to think of these great volleyers. What do they do before they're hitting their volley? I mean, what do they do with their serve? What do they do with their first volley? But the people get confused, say on an underspin backhand. I would say most people, we have a quiz where people will answer, yeah, 45 degrees. True or false? So when you hit a slice backhand, the racket face at the impact point is open approximately 45 degrees. And then you find out the great players, it's less than 10 degrees. Feel can really throw people off. But with volleys, the racket displacement, if you go slightly down, you're not going to hit the geometric center. So then the racket turns up, but the ball's gone. Talking about somebody you trained with, Victor Lilov. There's a young guy who had passion. He met Brian Gottfried. I was there. It was a USTA function. Brian Gottfried was 3 in the world. Or Arthur Ashe saying he's the hardest worker in tennis. He practiced on the day he got married. Lilov was probably 13 years old. He knew who Brian Gottfried was, and he knew what year he lost in the French final to Vilas. Just amazing. But with history, the racket face, if you have an approach volley, Jimmy Connors was great at this. Why do you take stutter steps? You're coming in playing a conventional approach volley.
Why do you take stutter steps?
Yeah, so you're 3/4 court, you're taking the ball out of the air, your opponent's hit a weak shot, you're going to just play that combination. Instead of an approach shot, it's going to be a conventional approach volley. Why do you take stutter steps?
Line the racket up, move through the shot.
You want to let the ball fall to where your racket face is vertical. If you reach up with an open racket face, you can tell by the sound of the hit. Now, some of those points, like a Jimmy Connors, it wouldn't really, obviously great players like Connors and Roddick and all these players that we name, they know tennis backwards, forwards, and upside down, but they don't necessarily know tennis math. Dave Anderson sent me an article today about the University of Virginia's swim team and how one of the math professors is helping them out. Every little detail adds up. Let's move on here. The guy who bought the sugar bagel pastry. You need to help me with my train of thought? Anything? I'm making sense here? It's only going towards midnight here. The show must go on, these podcasts. With your dad has a question here or a point to bring up. Attacking second serves. What comes to your brilliant mind, Johnson?
Well, we looked at some videos of me trying to, I think is I thought was attacking second serves, but I ended up like 4.5 feet in the baseline in the alley, like way out of position. So,
well, that comes into split stepping. You want to have your body mass moving forward. If you're moving so far diagonally, you've got to center the return and then build the point. But if you can have your body momentum, the body mass moving in the direction of the target. But one thing that you were doing was bush league. That's a hockey term. That guy's a bush league player. That means you play out in the country on the pond. You never get to the arena. But when you stand in close, say somebody has a weak serve and you move in, if you I'm standing in close, and there is that gamemanship where you can intimidate at the grassroots level, but you don't really see that at a high level because the serves are not that slow. But what you're doing is you're coming in. The French player you're playing against, he has lots of positives. He could run from Virginia to Florida or from Virginia to New York, but he doesn't know how to work the court. He's got some holes in his game. But with his serve, when you were standing really close, it's like the airplane doesn't have a runway. You need that strip of space to create momentum. And then you're going to glide coming in. We do those drills where we toss volleys to each other. I mean, we've had some long, long days here. 8 hours of tennis. But it's not 8 hours of just running. The gal here, she's going to help you get to the train tomorrow. Doing an internship with, we told her that, well, no, when you come in and do an internship here, you're not going to be tied to a ball basket just feeding balls. And, just so many things that you can do. So we toss balls underhand. So today we had an hour and a half review. Everybody's tired. Okay, take an hour and a half and we're doing all these technical drills. No racket, a racket, no ball, then a ball being tossed, a partner to one another. And people, you go across the court and they look like Sampras coming in. But then they don't make the connection. Oh, that's how you're supposed to play when you're volleying. You glide and you come in. And it's really a chess match. You need to play the dimensions of the court. You need to play the math, the percentages. So I think muscling it, getting too close to the ball, like they hit short. When people, they have to understand, when people miss long, it's because the racket face is open. Just think of people, they're taught to hit with a strong continental grip. It opens the racket face at a 45-degree angle. Okay, here's another one. It's the last one. On the forehand, how he coils and how he uncoils. I know I have a couple others here, but what's your comment on that, on your forehand?
Front foot. Need to hit on the front foot more.
Be a front foot player, but even if you hit open stance, you need to lift your body more. Body's a built-in gym. But the uncoiling is have your front side on the forehand work like a reactive brake. Don't spin out. One of our clips on Tennis Intelligence Applied, which is almost 20 years old now, is you're in a swivel chair as well. You don't want to be sitting, you don't want to be feeling like you're in a swivel chair and you're pulling this way. The body's a leader, so goes the body, so goes the racket. And when you start to pull out, you haven't made the hit yet, but your body's pulling out. Anxiety too, getting tense. And then you start to sneak a peek. You don't keep your eyes like a golfer right down at the impact point. And when you pull out on the forehand side with your left shoulder, you're not going to get true top. You're not going to get the racket to get below the ball. So that's where we tell people like Roger Federer on the forehand side, when you're warming up, catch the racket hand to hand. Now, did Roger do that when he played? No, but he honored that principle. Doesn't mean that he never flew out with the left side, but and there's somebody like Borg who kept his head so still. I've got a couple more points, but what about the split step?
Talked a lot about the split step. I don't know where to split step for the most part.
Well, it's not like the split step's going to be the same spot. If you look at Wimbledon from the old days, the grass is worn out. It's called the run-up. Now at the end of the fortnight, the grass is not worn out because people are just playing. It's worn out from the baseline. You know, and the grass is different. But still, people don't train. They don't live their life to win. People don't train like, I'm going to go to Wimbledon, so I'm going to train year round to be an all-court player. A lot of times people think they're an all-court player, but they're just, at best, an offensive baseliner. Now, OTI, online tennis instruction, Florian Meyer, just have to think of these names. He's a German. He spent a year with us as an intern, and he has a South African, Greg Lesor, who spent 3 years with us. And I know Florian had 2 telephone interviews with Vic Braden. And Vic used to say, well, you know, we've overemphasized the split step and the times that players don't split step. Like, say someone like Ben Shelton. I mean, boom, that serve it is. But it's been proven that most split steps, it's just 1 foot landing. So say if I'm veering off to the right, I'm a right-hander, and I'm going to go at a 45 to the right, the net post on the right side of the court. But you need to be able to split step to push off, to change directions. So if the variables, the speed of your serve, the placement of your serve, and on, the position they stand in, the type of return they hit with the speed of the return. So it's not going to be the same thing every time. With, you know, obviously, I think what's great that you proved yourself as a freshman. So pretty safe bet that you're going to be a lineup guy this year. That's another thing too. Doesn't matter whether you play 1 through 6. Win points for UCLA. Oh, I want to play in the tournament. I want to be ranked. No, I want to play pro tennis. No anxiety for where I play in the lineup. And, you know, my son Connor, he played 6 at Ohio State. He wasn't necessarily number 6 when he played. But, you know, a couple of years later, 2 years later, he's 200 in the world. I mean, all the players, you're going to be in the Big Ten. All the players are solid. You know, it's really a dumb question. Well, what number in the lineup did you play? What number were you? You've been asked that, right? Oh, you play at UCLA? You're finally happy. I play in college tennis. The next question, what number do you play? What's the lowest you started at?
5.
Played 5. And the player you played against was good. Yeah. And you played the same against number 5s as you played against number 2s. Not in the pocket, too much stress, not being effortless on your serve, you know, all those things. And what you're trying to do as an athlete, you're trying to do as a tennis player, is you're trying to program your brain. That's just interference. I'm at UCLA. Doesn't matter, coach. Obviously, you want to be in the lineup. I remember a guy trained tennis, trained Tomas Olerstedt, really good tennis player except for his serve, really good athlete. And he told my son Connor didn't do it. He said, hey, your freshman year, just attack on every ball. You know, he says, as long as you get in the lineup, just attack on every ball. And most college tennis players, they get bigger and stronger. I get college coaches mad at me for this, but they leave college tennis, most of them, they leave college tennis the same player they went in. Now, you can't necessarily blame the coach, but the coach is going to go with whoever can win. It's not how many coaches like, no, you're gonna redshirt, like say Tom Brady, the quarterback, goes to Michigan. You're gonna learn the system. No, you can win playing one-on-one back doubles. We'll throw you in. It's like no, we're gonna teach you how to play doubles. And all this hype in the recruiting process is, you know, we'll help you get the pro tennis. The split step in doubles, you can be a little bit loosey-goosey, or it's not as strict. It's not as you don't have to be as emphatic about making people do it, because if you're playing doubles with a good player, you only have to cover 15 feet of the 36. You divide in half, 18, and they should cover it. What else you got, Johnson? We talked about number of things here. Your telephone. Today, when you went to your phone, and your sister, I love it how your sister came to visit, and your dad's right. What a rock star. I go, Johnson, your father's not telling me that you're a rock star. So you're trying to organize, you're going to see her for a few days in Washington, D.C., but go to the coach and say, excuse me, coach, I got to use my phone for a minute. But tennis players shouldn't have anything to do with their phone during practice. The dream killer. But what else you got, Johnson? Anything?
Firstly, it's good to come back to Wintergreen and here get my yearly dose, my daily dose of tennis information.
Tennis informational character 101. Yeah, there's so many young kids that it's not about the tennis. The tennis is the easy part. Tennis is the easy part. And one thing that's big time is your dad is a student of the game. What a curious cat. I was telling a story the other day because we talked to Scotty Perelman, who's now at TCU. And your dad was at Tyler Junior College, and back in the day at Tyler Junior College, they had all these foreign players, high-level tennis. Is they would play Texas and Texas A&M, TCU, and your dad, I remember him asking me in front of his coach, I was playing David Pate. I go, whoa, David Pate. David Pate got to be one in the world in doubles, and I think it was 40, 41. Actually, our fact checker, Andres Barbosa, told me that I mixed it up with Ben Shelton's uncle, Todd Witzkin, died at 34. He was ranked like 40 in the world.
Wow.
And in singles, but 4 in doubles. All right, Johnson, why don't you give us 3 things that you're going to take away from this experience here? You give me one, I'll give you one, and we'll sign off.
Let's say I need to obey the science.
Follow the science. Fact-based instruction for long-term development. The dimensions of the court and physical laws dictate stroke reduction. No coach's opinion or any unique theory. To me, it really comes down to a higher level of understanding. I am very reflective. My mother was a storyteller, nostalgic, to look back and think about, well, this is how this played out. And people think they know and they don't know. And but I've been doing this for so long, working the same information for so long. There's just this reunion of 40 coaches at the Vic Braden Tennis College, 46. And there's 46 different levels. 46 different levels of who knows the stock market, who knows about real estate, but just the knowledge base for Vic Braden. If Andy Fitzell said, well, someone used the term Vic Braden method, Vic would never call it a method. It's a method is a human element. Go ahead, another one.
Make the way you conduct yourself in practice and matches the same.
Yeah, tell us about you worked with John Nienagel's brother, Jeremy. You're an ENTP?
Yeah. I met him when I was a junior, like my later...
In high school?
Yeah, I was like a junior, senior.
Your dad's digging corners. He's digging. That's smart.
No, he told me, because of my brain type, a good example for me would be to play like Monfils out there. He said, I'll play my best tennis when I'm loose like that. Yeah,
I asked you to tell your sister in this small group setting we had, and I said, Johnson, tell Lauren, what was your first nickname? And you said, must have been an eternal scar. We were doing that clinic at Brian Clark's place in Cincinnati. My not so bright assistant, because you're okay. Johnson's been around for a little bit. Okay, Johnson, come on out, show and tell. And that was not it. It was a golden retriever. Johnson, you're such a golden retriever. But no, I think that being loose on the court, if you could just find that. But at the same time, be professional. I think you did a much better job today. I mean, our French guy, oh my word. I did tell the French guy, I learned this from Mark Hamlin. Because Mark Hamlin he spent more than half his life in Germany now, and there's some things come up, and he's told many Germans over the years, hey, because they're bad mouth in the U.S. He say, hey, remember, it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German. But yeah, I mean, the Oscar goes to Killian. Hope he listens to this podcast. He was too dramatic. Holy Toledo. But no, to be professional, but be loose at the same time. You know, Jim Lair, it's tough to match or to produce both relaxation skills and intensity at the same time. Go ahead. One more. Is that it? One more? I can't count to 3. We're going wire to wire. Last thing, Johnson. I hope our listeners are getting something out of this.
Power line.
I know Joey will listen to this.
Power line on the serve.
You don't have it. No, you don't have it. You know, I like to tell guys that are much taller than me, Johnson, you're 6'3", 6'3 and a half, but when you serve, you're 5'3", 5'3 and a half, because you're shrinking. They have this kid here who's playing NAI tennis. I was working at Vic's place, and guy shows up with his girlfriend. He had won the NAI Nationals. And I initially I was working as a volunteer. Vic would leave, I would leave. I'd go around and watch people like Lansdorp teach tennis and go here, there, and everywhere in Southern Cal. So Vic would come back, I would come back. It was pretty good times. I was living in a van and bartending nights, and I was Vic Braden's gopher. And then they forced me to work. They asked me to work at first. I said, no, I'm good. And help me out with this, Johnson. Where am I going? Boy, it's midnight. Tell me out. Pulling me over.
I don't know where your power line.
Power line?
I don't know.
So I played as champion. Thanks, I got it now. But people have to realize this is the wee hours of the night. That he went to the Vic Braden Tennis College. He just won the NIAs. And he came with his girlfriend, and someone at the tennis college answered, and they said, do you have advanced players? And the woman at the Vic Braden office said, yeah, we have advanced players. But it was all recreational adults. So I show up, and this guy is, he's really pulling down on his backhand, and he's pretty loose on the forehand. He's in the lanes. And one or two of the coaches go, yeah, that guy's terrible. And I said, Vic, this guy could play. So anyway, I remember I played him, and Vic watched the match. Vic was, really went out of his way. It was really a cool thing, because then I got to hang out with this kid, and Vic just gave him privates because he didn't really fit in the, he's a really good college player. It'd be like, say, this young guy that you're practicing with from France showing up at an adult camp. And I used to toss the ball over my head, and I remember Vic saying, Steve, when you serve, you're rubbing your chest against the cement. And then the other one was a backhand volley. He said, Steve, if you could hit those 2 shots. And he just put his hand over his face like this, started shaking his head. But go ahead, one last thing, Johnson. We'll write it on the bathroom wall.
Approach volleys.
Like power line.
Power line.
Okay, let's just finish on that. Well, you can go with the approach shots. If you were more relaxed, if you had your toss to the left, and it's not going to go that far to the right on your second serve. I mean, you really telegraph it, but you need to take time and load. You need to get your head over your back foot. We go the rhythm, bathroom scale 1, bathroom scale 2, the word pitcher method, coil properly to uncoil properly. How you bring your back foot up, heel to the instep on the power line. Your back knee is pointed at a 45-degree angle the opposite direction. You have to turn your hip in. Johnson, that was kind of new for you. Why is all this stuff new? Asked Johnson. So Johnson, did we teach you this when you were 11? But no, it takes time. So now you're older, wiser. And again, you have to keep increasing the volume. You got to do your schoolwork. And you can play for money. You got to have big time skills though. So then you freeze, you decelerate your lower body, accelerate your lower body. It's like you're climbing a diagonal ladder at a 45-degree angle. So you have to turn I'll do it for myself. I'm a righty. I'm going to turn my left hip into the net post. So I have to go very slow in the beginning, very slow. And a lot of positives with your serve. Having a low toss. And then if you serve and volley more, you'll just automatically start getting that toss to go further in the court. You have to improve your footwork because you end up off balance off your serve. But when you toss further in front, and one, you're going to land further in the court. So now you get more, if you're not going to serve and volley, you got to recover back. The other thing is that when you toss in front, the ball is going faster, comes back faster. So you have to really train for that. It's really interesting when you watch people train for a serve. Almost never, trying to be positive, I could say never. You never see this. Someone's hitting their serve, and after the serve, they practice their recovery. I mean, do you see that? No, because obviously you're serving big. You're trying to serve too big. If you're just loose, have you ever hit golf balls?
Once in a while.
Like, I'm the worst golfer in the world, but anybody who's tried to hit golf balls, and you just let it free fall with gravity, the club, and then the kinetic chain, the interaction body parts, then boom, you can hit a golf ball. But Braden's was always saying with efficiency, don't recruit muscles. Least amount of moving parts, least amount of muscle recruitment. Last thing on approach shots.
Approach volleys, hit it, let the ball fall.
Jack Roppel and I, leading biomechanics. We were spoon-fed by Vic Braden at the same time. I love it when somebody says something, I love that line. I'm going to own that. But you make it a story. So I'm telling you right now, I learned this from Jack Roppel. And I'm sure he heard it from somewhere else. That's just how learning takes place. The approach shot or the approach volley, that's the money shot. The follow-up, so you hit an approach shot. The volley is the cash-in shot. Now, when people play an approach shot, it's just an anxiety shot. They're just freaking out. And years go by. I mean, there's one gal who's here. She's only a sophomore in high school. She's, like 5'10". She can hit the ball well. But she has played her whole career so far. That's an interesting word for a junior, career. Her time in tennis. So tomorrow, I'm going to have her play where she plays on half the court. And the only time the ball can bounce is when she's returning serve. Just go out and play. And because she has to change all the signals. It's like, no, this is how you play. It's like she's played basketball, but never one time has she driven to the basket. All right, Johnson, what's one mind vitamin? We'll let you out of here.
You snooze, you lose.
If you snooze, you lose. You coast, you toast. Close connection between getting up in the morning and getting up in the world. Love mind vitamins. Nick Saban, you got that one down?
If you start it, I probably could finish it.
Choices are just an illusion. If you want to be good,
you have no choice.
You have no choices. All right, Spencer, I didn't give you a hard enough time. Like, I'll get another chance. Actually, when you play matches, it's just amazing with the streaming.
Yeah,
it doesn't work out all the time, but your dad, we're up here in the mountains. It's like, yeah, okay, we'll go to LA and we'll watch Johnson play. And it's interesting. Well, let me ask you this. Why were you playing better in the season than when you played these pro tournaments? What happened? You were playing better? It was like, Johnson, it looks like he's listening. And then you play these pro tournaments. You freaking out all over again?
I was really...
This is the ATP. I'm playing for points now. This is big time.
Yeah, I just felt a different type of stress that I don't normally feel. I think I do pretty well when there's pressure, but there's a difference between just like a pressure situation and just self-inflicted stress where it in a negative way. I don't know.
I remember taking a young Ryler to heart. Thomas Olshit, I mentioned earlier, he started him out. He spent so many years with me. And then he went to Craig Tiley, so he spent all these years with a group of us in Tampa Kid, and I'm going to guess that he was 16, maybe 15, 16 years old. And he gets invited. I think it was just a wild card tournament. I don't think it was even the qualies. And we're driving out. I said, yeah, I'll take you. And I said, he's all excited. I said, Riley, for the most part, what this is going to be, it's going to be a bunch of rich kids that are in the wrong place. Vic Braden. Vic wouldn't say this to people up front, but he said, if you're playing futures for 3 years, you have no future. But in all fairness, you got to start somewhere. But with the level of play it takes. I mean, you go to some future tournaments, and people don't even warm up at the net. And tell me about futures doubles. What did you think?
It was really low level. I was like,
yeah,
whoa.
It's like, what's happening with our sport? I'll end with a Chuck Creasy thought. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And we definitely need to stand for people playing all over the court. We tell people on this podcast time and time again, if people in tennis were to just 20 minutes a day have kids play one bounce doubles. Just, have some fun. One bounce doubles you could do as partners. You could do where you compete. But if you don't, you don't. Anyway, wave goodbye to the camera, Johnson. Another podcast, 208 in the books.
See ya.
The tennis treasure chest, that's our goal, that we've shared a few pearls. But I do think that the people who listen to these over and over again, just like yourself, is what will happen is they just acquire, like I did over time and still want to, is let me understand this a little bit better. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let me get a higher level understanding, improve our tennis IQ. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Another podcast. Adios, amigos.